So the reason we started this session is because I've been engaging with some RMIT fresh graduates, and they've been mentioning about how difficult the current job market is. And they're saying like there's no quick way to ease their anxiety, but if there's a way to, you know, to close the gap, whatever methods, it can be very beneficial. And then I asked her, do you know any people before your graduation or after that you've seen people have win a position of something that you can use your time and energy to get instead of maybe networking or just opportunity? And she said she did witness some people getting a job position in other cities like Brisbane, Sydney, obviously because they understand Revit, understanding of how do you really have interest in this. And when we have a white paper showing what's its best and what's its worst, and do you still want to engage, spend your time learning the software? And if you do want to emerge in the software, what's the framework would look like and what's the workload?
So does anyone know Revit in here?
Yeah, I know a bit. When
Okay.
I was back in Iran, I've been using it a little bit in more architectural projects. So I'm really interested to see like how does it work in a larger scales as we had in landscape architecture.
Okay, that's good. And also, anyone is everyone working in landscape company or engineering company or design architects? Anyone? Oh, okay, and you. Okay. So half and half.
Hello, hi. I'm Kylie. I actually used it before when I worked in Brisbane. So I mainly use it for like documentation. It's quite handy. So it's like a database. So yeah, I think it's like really good for everyone to learn it. And I think it's really getting popular in our industry. So
So for this session, will say the Revit it's not the best program in the world or the only program you need to use. It's not gonna solve everyone to find job or to all the projects. So, but it's very important to know Revit and use Revit, and I'll explain through the slides because I use Revit a lot, but I also wanted to make sure that there's a good and bad, like everything we know, and depending on your scale of the project, your personality, your style of working, whether you like design or delivery and construction. So it's not the best or the ultimate program, but it is very useful and handy, and I hope you understand a bit more by end of today's session. We think landscape is just a designing garden or green space, residential, just to planting design. But nowadays we are doing a little bit more. So I'll say we are doing a lot of 2D, 3D, even 4D. So we need to look at how it looks like in the before and in the future, climate change. Also, a lot of us also working in coordination, collaboration with different disciplines around the world, and also with civil engineer, sometimes client architects, and many, many different teams. I also highlight that there's a lot of data now with AI and a lot of global scale projects. So we need to also deal with a lot of number, different time, different constraints throughout the project. Also, when you put everything together into one model, it doesn't just become very heavy and very complex. You need to somehow find the room to plant trees and make sure everything works. So to do that, I think we all understand the role. It's not just planting tree, but it kind of expand much further. So I think how I will approach this is to find job or to win projects, or if you want to climb up, or if you want to join the company, you need to know what they need. So if they are looking for someone who wants to design, then you need to show them that you can design. Or if they need someone who can do work in the construction, then you need the right skill. And I will say a lot of projects now are infrastructure projects and big scale projects because they rather do one big project in the world or in the suburb, and then divide into different parts because it's easy to sell the projects to the community and also win the budgets to the state government, and it just attracts a lot of investors around the world. So I'll say more than half or around half of the firms in Melbourne or Australia use BIM. So BIM is a building information modeling. It's like you model in Rhino, but you need to put a lot of information, the materials, the cost, what the finishes are. And with that, most of the projects are in Revit because it's very handy. And not sure if everyone's in, or some people are in architecture company, 90% of architects use BIM or Revit. I went to a lecture or critique yesterday to Swinburne Uni. They also use Revit from Bachelor 1 to Year 3. So I'm not sure about the landscape courses in Melbourne Uni or MIT now, but already Swinburne Uni or Monash architects, they are very good at Revit and they do everything in Revit. So they, at the end of the day, they have a whole package in Revit and they are only bachelor students. I also say around Australia, like the residential or the skyscraper or these data centers, they are big infrastructure projects and they just start booming after COVID. And if you look at the newses, they are facing the social housing. So they just build a big road in the regional area, and then these kind of houses just copy paste, but still they are building a lot. And all of these kind of big projects are more or less done in Revit because at the end of the day, the government or the client, they want to control all this data, how they can improve the costing or how much energy people use. So this is just looking at Victoria, big bill. This is all the projects me and Chenyi also worked on. So there's more than 200 projects already. Almost, I'll say 190 projects are almost like in Revit and BIM. I worked in level crossing, regional rail, Northeast Link, I'm still working, and SRL, and airport rail, which is not happening, but it will happen. And then all these other roads are almost getting built or near completion, but it's almost everything is kind of done in Revit. I'll show you how and where. So all this across Melbourne, all these little dots mean station or level crossing. If it's only road, then maybe they don't need Revit, but they're just doing other program. But if it's involving trees or urban space, landscape, playground around the station, they will require to be using Revit. And this purple line, which is the V line, they are going all the way to Sydney and then all the way to Brisbane. So they're connecting this inland interstate rail for the container, for the shipping. So for them, it's very easy to use Revit because it can cover large distance. So if you look at this data, it's like everyone use AI, ChatGPT. So this NVIDIA, they're just booming. A lot of money, a lot of investment. But why? Because the client needs a lot of AI. And it's the need is like these people and the customer. A lot of customers want to use AI. So this Google and Amazon, Facebook, they are making it, and they all come to Jensen for NVIDIA because he's the only one who kind of make the good graphic card and the chips. So he knows that a lot of people need this chip, so he can control, and everybody likes it. I'll give you another example, which is like Labubu. Everybody wants, they can control the demand. If you can make Labubu more, then you'll probably get more attraction from the client. So this is us, and that's the client or the company who are looking for, you know, a job, and it goes again to like I said in the earlier, we're not just landscape architect. We if you're good with coordination, then you also get picked by the client. So if you look at me, I worked in the architect company, landscape firm, and private designer company, smaller one, and also engineering company now in ECO. I work with many different clients, from very big and then someone who's very small, and all of them they need all of them they need Revit. So everywhere I go, somehow and some reason they always use Revit. When I was working, of course, there's so many programs you need to learn, or you learn, or they teach you. You don't have to use everything, but I'm sure there's more programs that you know, only because you want to, or their client or the contractor, we need to do the drawings, the models, we need to give them information, we need to do analysis, you know, how many trees we can put. They wanted to know how many trees, you know, the quantity that we can plant. They also want to see the render. They want to see everything get built and how they build through simulation. And after you've finished the project, they also want to keep maintaining, keep monitoring the model. So all of these contractors work. This is what the kind of the role of landscape architect right now. And you can see I highlighted Revit can cover kind of all of these functions. I'm not sure if you know the other programs can cover all of them at once. So you can see the real benefit of using Revit. Here are some projects, the big projects. So you can see many rail, hospital, stadium, university campuses. They all kind of need to be built in Revit. I also put in Queensland or in other states, if the project is really big, 50 million, then you will need to use Revit for regulation from the very early stage. So when you do tracing or something, then your idea need to be transferred into Revit so the client can see. And I know there's one person from Brisbane. I highlight Queensland because does anyone know what's happening in Queensland now or in the future?
Olympics.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, Olympic, yes. So this Olympic in this 2025. They are building for 2032. So it's already, I don't know, 7 years later, but I can't tell for 100%, but already they are building the rail from Sydney to Brisbane. They're building the stadium or designing the stadium. So this is kind of one of the design. All of these, they need Revit pretty much. And all the big company, they are bidding for these projects, whether it's good news or bad news. Brisbane have not many people. So we also take a lot of jobs from Brisbane, and Brisbane attract a lot of people all around Australia and also New Zealand who can use Revit. There's also airport. So I'm not sure also if all of you know, there's they're building new terminal for Melbourne. They're building new terminal for Sydney. They're building new one for Brisbane. I think Perth. I think Perth one was like almost $5 billion. And so somehow they want to just expand building a whole new airport all around Australia. Already, there's some of them you can see they are building a Western Sydney airport, which is also in Revit. Yeah, next page. So this is kind of the output that me and Chenyi also worked on, like this one, which is built. Yeah, so me and Chenyi, we work on this during COVID time. We model in Revit even the the small placement of the plants in this little garden bed. Even the painting on the ground, also we make the line in Revit. For example, this one, notice link, it's getting built now. Of course, it won't be as green, but everything you see on this render will be more or less done in Revit. So it takes, I think, like few terabytes to hold all the storage. This one is a suburban rail loop. Even the tunnel and this rail will be and is all modeled in Revit. I think I have a few more examples. In Melbourne, you can see a lot of architects, and when we are in Aspect, they kind of are all designed in Revit. Has anyone been to France? Yeah. So the architects will design these forms and give us the file, and then basically you can see their changes 2 minutes ago. If they hit save and then share, you can see them. And if you put something wrong, they will clearly see, almost like live. And this Parkville station as well. Now, because of the requirement, the government, even if you can model this in Rhino, at the end, they want to see this file in Revit. A few more projects. So, for example, this NGV project, which will be happening in the future or now, will be obviously done in Revit. But you can see even Southern Cross, which has been there for 20 years or more than that. Like it's also kind of documented and modeled in Revit by Greenfield Architects in Sydney and around the world. In New York by Hedwig as well, and the one central stations and one central building. They are kind of all modeled in Revit. Obviously, it's been a long time, but you can see it's very important still now. Global projects, of course, Singapore Airport, and the Dubai Tower and the line. I'm not sure if anyone know, but I worked briefly, so it's getting built. I saw the Revit file. They're building something, and I'm like, where it goes, and they say it's very small piece along the very long line. But yeah, believe it or not, it's getting built. So from this slide, I'll kind of explain what happens in my daily life in ACOM as a more like focus in Revit. So almost I'll say 90% of the work is in Revit. So I'll go to work 9 o'clock, maybe a bit late, depends. And then if I can't finish at 5, but I'll try to finish at 5 or before 6. When I go to work, I will check my email. I make coffees and then chit chat and then talk at half an hour and then start looking at design. If there's a design work, or if not, I will document if there's a markup, red pen, something from the client, or I need to model 2D to 3D. I'll use again Revit and then work on this kind of more documenting role. Sometimes when some people need help with the rendering, of course, I also do some rendering, mostly also in Revit and some plugins like Lumion or Enscape. And yeah, also doing a lot of quantity schedule. So pumping out the number of the tree, the areas, and if it's too much beyond the budget, then you cut. And then if they want to see how it looks like in option 1, option 2, option 3, you can do very quickly because they are all interlinked. And you also do giving a lot of information. When I say information, it's more like how many trees you plant this year and the next year, or how many concrete you need for this area, that area. Can you build higher or lower? All of this basic idea you need to model and then kind of document in very fast, quick way, because the client don't give you a lot of time. And if you want to finish on time, sometimes you need to jump from rendering, and then while it's rendering, you go into design, and then you bring this design and then see how much it costs. So all of these different roles kind of interconnect. So sometime I'll work in Photoshop or InDesign and Rhino or Revit, but some people, if they're really good or even better, they will just use Revit. Yeah, so for example, this is a competition I do. So in Revit, you can do obviously plan at the same time. You can look at the sections and floor plans at the same time, and also in 3D. So you can see on the left, there's a lot of data. On the right, you can see a lot of different views you can set up. And if you change one thing, then you'll see the change everywhere simultaneously. And you can see the scale of the project. It's very big, almost like a 1 to 3 kilometer long, but still you can do very quick changes. And next one. So, and then once you make the changes, if you have the Enscape or Lumion, the changes will come in live. And depending on your software or graphic card, you can see a more high quality render. So obviously you can see no texture here, but if you hit render, the textures will all come up. Yeah, next page. And this is kind of the level of detail. So early stage, you don't need to model everything. You just make a LOD 100, which is very concept. It's just a box. If that works, then you go to next step, next step, next step. And when you go into the LOD 500, that's almost like they're building on site. So they need something to build tomorrow, then that's when you make the change. And it become very high in detail level of detail, which means you need to even put the data for like a small bolt or a power. So because it's all data kind of driven, if you put too many, for example, if you put too many drink fountain or toilet, they can see, oh, we're not gonna have a lot of supply. You can see a lot of issues. So they're all kind of very highly, there's a lot of information in the model. So for example, LOD 100, it will be maybe 2 megabyte, 3 megabyte. When you go to LOD 500, it might become like 500 megabytes. So depending on the level, you can do a lot of different changes. And you can see here, which is clashes. If you model something, you can see clashes right away, and then you can fix it. Mostly, will be the my daily work, fixing the trees. So next page, it's just a quantity. So very important because the client always asks us to, cut the trees or remove the tree. They want to see, minimize the costing. So you can see how many garden bed you need or trees you need very quickly, but also because this is kind of in Excel table, which means if you bring the Excel table in, the model will also change. So if you say, oh, I want to change this all the tree family or this tree model into 2 meter, if you change in Excel and then input to Revit, it will all change automatically. So if you don't like the color or the location or something, they link with Revit and the Excel or other tables. So normally the client will ask how many trees we have, then I give them the number of the tree, the quantity, and the sizes. And if they can't find on site or in the nursery, then they will say, can we have different types? And if you know all of this, then you can go higher level and more different, more advanced sectors such as digital twin Victoria. So after you do all the projects, big projects, it goes into this website by the government. And what they do is they can see, oh, what happens if we change this Swanson Street? Where will people go? How many people will use this toilet or drink fountain? Or where will the traffic collisions will happen? So you can see also the tree data beyond the Dandenong. And more or less, they are either try to bring these old projects into digital and new projects into this digital twin so they can see where the future developments can happen. And I put it here like a ChatGPT and other plugins. Revit, the Autodesk, they're investing a lot to bring these programs into Revit software. And you can see this kind of crazy diagram on the left-hand corner, which is like a scripting. So if you have a lot of crazy idea, you can kind of make them like a grasshopper. And then in Revit, you can do that too. I know that a lot of RMIT and Melbourne Uni students use Rhino. And a lot of company architects still use Rhino a lot. And I also use Rhino for parametric shape and stuff. There's a lot of debates between Rhino and Autodesk because Rhino is a bit more free. My advice would be if you learn Revit, you can also work in Rhino. So basically, you open Revit, and in Revit there's a Rhino. So for example, this complex model, or you have Rhino model, you just open and then bring it in. And then in here, you can add all the data or the file, you can change it. There's some people, they just have Revit open and they have Rhino and they model in Rhino. And at the end of the day, I say, can you give me the file? Then they'll just say, okay, I'll save the file. Then I can see their model, which is in Rhino in Revit file. Does anyone know this painting? No? Yeah,
Got
okay.
internet.
No, internet? Okay. Very, very expensive painting. Yeah, it's old painting. It's by David Hockney, one of my favorite painters. I put this because you can see this painting done almost 40 years ago. Very big, almost size of this projector. He painted this when he was very young, maybe when he was like 29 or 30. And after that, he made so much money, he don't need to work. But he still work, he still paints. And if you go next slide, he can do oil painting. He can do Photoshop, collage, watercolor. This is a big media projection exhibition. I think he also did exhibition in Shanghai, pen, ink, a lot of big scale work. Also iPad. So you can see, even he's very old and very talented, he's just open-minded, just use new media every year. So he started with oil painting in 40 years ago. And when the Photoshop came, he tried the collage. And when this iPad came, he worked with Apple, and Apple make him the new software, and he worked with Procreate app, iPad. So all the drawings you might see, he will be the test user, because for Apple, it's a good marketing because he draws some artwork, they can sell it, and he can test the new program every year. And now I think this one in the middle, which is the media world, is his latest work. So you can see every year, next year, there might be better program or new program, which you kind of have to learn, but also maybe not say no to softwares. So normally you expect to learn everything. If you know everything already, like the Photoshop 3D Max, SketchUp, Enscape, or Lumia, Revit, Rhino, CAD, more or less you'll be working in the company. So, and I would say along in this card, Revit will have the highest chance that you can kind of not just find job, but also the role you can do, clashes, program managing, project managing, going to site, how much it costs, all of these. Photoshop can't really do. CAD really can't do modeling in 3D. Rendering, you can do Photoshop and Rhino, but documenting a bit difficult. So it's very multifunctional. Like this tool. And even though it's very engineering kind of base. So most of the Revit program will be for architects, like wall, pipe, floor or roof. But you can still do a lot of design work. So if you are comfortable with the skills, the program doesn't really matter. So you can see I'm testing here with the watercolor, and then I'll try to copy that into Revit, trace the line, and then bring them to 3D. Maybe I'll ask if you can see. Maybe can anyone guess how many program I use for example this render?
4.
Less than 4. Huh? 1? Almost 1. Yeah. So I use 2. So InDesign to bring all the image on the panel. But for example, the plan or this tag or render, this axometric, even the writing or this putting the text and the arrows, you can do pretty much in Revit. So if you have free time or something, then I'll do this. And if I have idea when I'm working, but the client don't like, then I'll save and then you can reuse it in the future. It's copy paste, but if you make small change, it's very fast because you already have the template and you have the old project. It won't be too crazy the next project. So there's a lot to learn from the old project, and then slowly you get better and better and also faster and faster. So if you go to big companies like Aspect Studios or Tract and architecture companies, they will probably have a lot of data already. So what you do, you model something and they will have all the full data from their previous project. So you don't even have to make new things. You just apply the textures. Or you just say, oh, I want to change this form, and they might have the model already modeled. And again, you can use other programs. Like you can push to the 3D printing if you like. If you like sketches, you can bring them into Rhino. You can in Revit you can trace it. I tried to test Rhino as well, but you can model this parametric in Revit as well. I think this is almost the last page. So this is a kind of architects almost 40, 50, 60 years ago. There's not much difference to them and us. And the only thing is, in at their time, maybe 1920, 1950, or not before that, they only had pen and the ruler or the ink or maybe eraser. Of course, they don't have a computer, so they can't work in smaller screen and then zoom out, zoom in. So if they make mistake, they need to redraw everything. But essentially, it's just a tool, all the programs. But I think, for example, Revit will be a very important tool. In the last slide, so it will be either like a ruler or ink maybe. So you can still find something similar to draw straight line or draw pen or pencil, but I would say it's very essential to learn Revit if you want to work in the future projects in Brisbane or Sydney or in Perth or even the Saudi projects. Yeah. I think that's the last slide. Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. They are transferring and upskilling people to use Revit. So microstation people or whatever civil engineer, they are kind of converting into Revit because what happened is at the end, because they do 2D, 3D, and the data, crash detection, other stuff, rendering, the company can earn more money. So there is this switch for the company to make this decision. But again, like I said, Brisbane and other big mega infrastructure projects. So the government is trying to put more money in there. And if you want to kind of work in these kind of projects, you probably have to use Revit. So if you go to job interview, more or less, they'll ask you, oh, you can do the drawing, model, great, sketch, great. Can you use Revit at the end? Yeah. So if you can't use it, then it's very limited, I think. Yeah.